What is the difference between a Docker and a Kubernetes? How do they work in a DevOps pipelines? And coming to here, the Docker. So what is the role of a Docker that in a real-time cases is? So this particular Docker helps us in building and running and managing the respective containers. So what are these particular containers again? So the container is a lightweight, stand-alone, a mini machine where it will be having everything that your application required. For example, for our application, we require like activities, code, libraries, or system tools and the respective settings. So all these will be available inside of your container to make sure that your application is running smooth. For example, if you are having a Python application, instead of setting up of a Python everywhere, so you bundle the application and the respective Python libraries inside of a container. And the container itself takes care of running your application based out of Python. And coming to here, the Kubernetes, where this particular Kubernetes acts as a orchestration. The Kubernetes orchestrates and manages the lot of containers across many servers. So it handles activities like scaling, updating, and respective networking, storages, and even the load balancer concepts. So why it is really helpful and where it really helpful in a real-time cases is the Kubernetes. Whenever you have an application like an e-commerce or a certain services application, there you might be having hundreds of containers. So whenever to manage the hundreds of containers manually, that is very difficult. But this Kubernetes manages them automatically. For example, you tell the Kubernetes, run 5 copies of your application and make sure that your application stays online. And later, update that without any downtime. So all of these particular activities will be taken care by Kubernetes. And in a real-time cases, how these two, Docker and Kubernetes, work is, for example, the developer writes the code and it will be stored in a certain version control systems, and later that particular code will be built into the respective containers or Docker images. The application code will be built into a Docker images using a Docker file. And these particular images will be sent towards a container registries. And the container registries that we commonly used is Docker Hub or AWS Elastic Container Registry or a GitHub packages or Azure Container Registries, the common registries that we use for storing the container images. And the Kubernetes next. After you are creating these particular images and storing it in a registry, the Kubernetes pulls the images and deploy it into a cluster. And this particular Kubernetes manages the app and updates or whatever the failures. In a short, we can say that Docker creates and packages the application and Kubernetes deploys and manages your respective application.